A life of betrayal and sorrow, exploring the origin of DC's Jonah Hex. If you love DC but are a bit tired of the flashy supernatural stuff, Jonah Hex is the answer. If you're someone who is trying to get into the world of DC but are not very well versed with its superhuman elements, Jonah Hex is the answer. If you're someone who is a fan of gritty storytelling, Jonah Hex is the answer. He was born in the 1800s, 1838 to be precise. He was abandoned by his mother 10 years later in 1848. He was sold as a slave to the Apache tribe in 1851. He finds himself at a crossroads after being betrayed by his adoptive brother Noh-Tante in 1854. His to-be wife Cassie is killed in 1859. He underwent severe traumatic experiences in the US Army in 1863. He was branded with the Mark of the Demon in 1866. His wife Mei-Ling left him with their son Jason in 1876. He lost his biological mother in 1880. His stuffed corpse was found in 1987 and he became a member of the Black Lantern Corps in 2010. The more you analyze his character and learn about him, you see how painful a life he has led. Heroes have a sad beginning, but anti-heroes often have it sadder. In the movie, he was made to watch his house burn while his wife and son were inside. With a horrible scar adorning the right side of his face, Jonah is cynical in nature and does not have the best reputation. But his personal code of honor is unwavering, and having faced several instances of pain in his life, he is dedicated to protecting and avenging the innocent people. And that is why we love him so much. Before diving into the content, we would like to make a very small request to our viewers. Please subscribe to Marvelous Videos. Like and comment on our videos and press the bell icon to be notified whenever we upload a video. We would be grateful to you and we hope to bring you the best nerdy content. And with that, let's get right into this video. The debut of our favorite anti-hero Cowboy. Before you watch a movie, you see its teaser. In similar fashion, Jonah Hex made his debut in an in-house ad for All-Star Western number 10, published by DC Comics. This full-page ad took up space in several DC Comics during November and December in 1971, finding its way into a couple of DC's war comic lines. In the ad, we see Jonah Hex's first ever published pictures alongside two comic strip panels with dialogues that set the tone for the character and his story. During the February-March time period the very next year, i.e. 1972, Jonah Hex made his first full-story appearance. However, the excerpts from the advertisement did not make the cut into the story. At this time, All-Star Comics had been renamed as Weird Western Tales. In 1977, Jonah Hex got a self-titled series for 92 issues. Michael Fleischer, who was also known for writing for Spectre, was the main writer, while Tony DeZuniga took over the art department for the comics. Jonah Hex Origin Story. Jonah Hex was born as an only child in Missouri to Woodson Hex and Virginia Ginny Hex. They lived in a small farmhouse. A gang was on the lookout to eliminate fugitive Mormons who had taken refuge in nearby houses. When they encountered the Hex household, Woodson Hex began to attack them with his axe relentlessly, killing each one of them. Virginia stepped out of the house with a newborn child in her arms, Jonah Hex. But as you may already guess, Jonah's childhood was far from being ideal. Sometime later, Woodson succumbed to alcoholism and his abusive nature was at an all-time high. He would often release his aggression on Jonah or his mother. On Jonah's 10th birthday, Woodson crossed his threshold and began to beat Virginia up. A young Jonah picked up a gun and pointed it towards his father. Enraged, Woodson turned his attention to Jonah, dislocating his arm and dragged him outside to beat him up. Virginia picked up the gun, pointing it at Woodson and asked him to leave and come back only when he was sober again. During Woodson's absence, Virginia left the Hex household with a traveling salesman. She bid Jonah goodbye but left him to deal with Woodson by himself. Following his wife's departure, Woodson traveled to California with Jonah, hoping to mine for gold during the California Gold Rush. As he traveled, he encountered a tribe of Apache American Indians. He spoke to the Apache chief to get passage through and sold Jonah to the tribe for the right to do so, and some fur pelts. As Jonah was still only 13, the Apache raised him from then onwards, inculcating the customs and ways of the Apache tribe into him. Jonah learned how to track, hunt, fight, and survive. During a terrifying incident, Jonah had saved the chief of the Apache tribe from a puma. For this feat, the tribe who had initially purchased him granted him freedom. Jonah could leave the tribe whenever he wished to, but having had a better life with the tribe compared to his own family, Jonah decided to stay in the Apache camp. The chief's son, Noh-Tante, did not accept Jonah as a part of the tribe. Jonah fell victim to his taunts and was bullied until a beautiful girl from the tribe, White Fawn, stood up for him. The two developed a liking for each other, much to Noh-Tante's distaste, who grew jealous as he harbored feelings for the girl as well. On one night, the Apache chief wanted to test Jonah and Noh-Tante and check whether they were worthy warriors or not. They were given the objective to sneak into the nearby camp of the Kiowa Indians and steal their horses. Noh-Tante thought that passing this test would significantly amplify his chances of being with White Fawn. As they raided the camp, they got into a battle with the tribe. Seizing the opportunity, Noh-Tante attacked Jonah and knocked him unconscious for the Kiowa chief to kill and discard him off. He then stole the horses and brought them back home along with a fabricated rumor where he stated that Jonah was killed off by the Kiowa during the raid. Jonah once again found himself with the short end of the stick when it came to family. The Apaches believed that Jonah was dead, but a group of bounty hunters conducted their own raid on the Kiowa tribe. Betrayed and mistreated by the ones he considered to be family, once again, Jonah chose to deflect from the Apache camp. He became a buffalo hunter, vowing to never return to the Apache tribe again. With time, Jonah became an adult. Jonah joined the United States Army and became a cavalry scout. In 1861, the county got caught up in the Civil War between the northern states and the southern states due to slavery. During this time, Americans allied with two opposing ideals regarding issues of slavery and Southern rights, as the Southern Confederacy wished to preserve slavery. As the Union from the North and the Confederacy were at war, Jonah Hex allied himself with the Confederate Army and joined their 4th Cavalry as a lieutenant. As he served in the army, he met Jeb Turnbull, a fellow soldier who went on to become Jonah's closest friend. Having formed this relationship and having been a slave in the past, Jonah realized he could not support an ideology and system that would hold Turnbull in bondage. So, he abandoned the Confederacy and surrendered at Fort Charlotte to the Union camp. The captain of the Union camp required Jonah to reveal the location where the Confederate unit lay. However, Jonah denied. Samples of clay were taken from the iron hooves worn by Jonah's horse, and they were able to figure out where the Confederate unit was stationed. They tracked the rebels and infiltrated their camp. The unit was not prepared for the surprise attack and ended up succumbing to the Union's forces. As they were being arrested, the captain of the Union thanked Jonah in public for assisting them. The soldiers of the Confederacy considered Jonah to be a traitor following that incident. Jonah punched the commander in the face, for which he was sentenced to solitary confinement. The arrested soldiers were brought to Fort Charlotte, but the camp lacked the ration to feed all the prisoners. With an imbalance in the supply, the captain of the Union unit manipulated Jonah into staging a breakout. Beneath his cell, Jonah found a shaft that allowed him to access the compound which contained the prisoners, including his friend Jeb Turnbull. Jonah tried to help them escape, but this entire act was something the Union's captain had already planned for, which is why he manipulated Jonah into breaking them out. As the prisoners tried to escape, the soldiers of the Union opened fire on them, killing every escapee, including Jeb Turnbull. This is a historically canon event known as the Fort Charlotte Massacre. A stray bullet hit Jonah, but he somehow managed to kill the captain who pulled the trick on him. The fort commander, Colonel Ackerman, was aware of Jonah's past as an Apache and wanted to use him as an example for the other rebels. They tied Jonah to a cross on the raft and beat him up brutally until he floated away in the Cumberland River. Later, some villagers found Jonah as he floated, nailed to the cross, and nursed him back to health. Jonah went back to the Apache tribe, reuniting with the chief. But all wasn't sunshine and sparkles, as he discovered that the notorious Noh-Tante was now married to his ex-sweetheart, the beautiful White Fawn. As the chief of the tribe saw Jonah being alive, he questioned every bit of information he had acquired from his own son with reference to the raid on the Kiowa camp. Jonah confessed that Noh-Tante had betrayed him. Meanwhile, Noh-Tante lied about Jonah's fate once again, and crafted the story that Jonah had come back to take revenge on the Apache. The chief made them fight a trial by combat for honor to get to the bottom of the truth. Noh-Tante thought of Jonah as the more capable fighter. They could only use tomahawks as their weapon in the duel, so Noh-Tante sabotaged Jonah's weapon before they could fight. As a result, Noh-Tante was succeeding against his old rival during the combat and attacked brutally. As they dueled, they slipped off a cliff and found themselves in a place where no one could see them. Taking this unfair opportunity, Noh-Tante kicked Jonah in the groin, and Jonah, unable to use his tomahawk efficiently due to Noh-Tante's tampering, retaliated by thrusting his bowie knife into Noh-Tante's throat. A sacred law prevented him from murdering an Apache, which meant that even though Noh-Tante had cheated first, Jonah was to be punished. He appealed to the chief that he killed Noh-Tante in self-defense, but his pleas were disregarded. Plus, no one knew that Noh-Tante had cheated first, as that part of the duel took place away from the people's eye. The final verdict stated that Jonah was to bear the mark of the demon, a mark that signified how he was a man of both good as well as evil. The Apache chief heated a tomahawk and used it to sear the flesh off of one side of Jonah's face. Jonah had to leave the tribe and could never return. He moved to the wild, wild west, and using the skills he had acquired from his time with the Apache, became the most feared bounty hunter. The 2006 series about Jonah Hex has a few variations in this origin story though. In this edition, Jonah Hex was a soldier who fought in the American Civil War as part of the Southern ranks. The reason a side of his face was scarred forever here was not because of the Apache chief, but because of a cruel Union officer. Jonah got married to an Asian American woman named Mei-Ling during his mid to late 30s. They lived near the mountains as they settled down, but she was vehemently against his job as a bounty hunter. Once, Jonah Hex had picked up a tablet with magic imbued in it. As he placed it in his vest, he was sent to 1985. He returns to his own time after a demon steals the tablet. He later goes on to being transported to 2050 and spends time living there before returning to his era.
I might like them mods.
Quentin Turnbull.
How did Jonah become a bounty hunter? As you can see, Jonah's life is one that is full of misery. Once he visited the boomtown to get drunk and drown his sorrows. During this time, he met Mad Dog, an outlaw who was attacking a woman. This reminded him of the time his own father used to be abusive towards his mother. As Mad Dog spoke, his violent sentiments lined up with those of Woods and Hex's. Triggered by the incident, Jonah's repressed memories came rushing back and he ended up shooting Mad Dog in the middle of the street. Following this, a deputy thanked Jonah for eliminating Mad Dog and suggested that he become a bounty hunter, as it is a very profitable venture. This inspired Jonah to become one and hunt down felons with bounties on their heads. Later, Jonah was killed by George Barrow, but ended up returning from the dead and receiving supernatural powers. He then traveled the American West, China, and South America. Jonah Hex, Weapons and Skills. As a majority of Jonah Hex's storylines are rooted in a gritty representation of reality, unlike several other more popular DC storylines which are dominantly supernatural, Jonah Hex is devoid of supernatural powers and superhuman feats in most of his stories. However, having undergone severe training, Jonah has honed his skills to the point of being exceptional. Jonah's right eye is blind, but his marksmanship is remarkable. He rarely ever misses and has excellent speed. In a shootout, he can take out several enemies quickly before they can even begin to shoot at him. He takes things a step further as he uses 2 guns and 2 hands with equal proficiency in wielding both. Legendary gunslinger Wendy Taylor was Jonah's mentor when it came to shooting. His reflexes often rival Batman. In combat, Jonah is a force, primarily due to his resourcefulness and battle IQ. He uses stealthy tricks, improvises weapons, and traps his enemies with ease. After being transported to the 21st century, Jonah Hex learns to drive several vehicles and becomes an expert at them. In the future era, Jonah wields a pair of Ruger Blackhawk 375 Magnums, as they are single-action revolvers like the ones he used in the West, and with his abilities, overpowers shooters wielding much more modern and superior weaponry. Marksmanship and combat IQ aside, Jonah is exceptionally good at tracking enemies. Weather calamities cannot stop him. His opponents trying to cover their tracks cannot stop him. Nothing can stop him. His danger sense warns him of traps, and it is a skill honed through experiences in hunting and fighting. He can sustain himself in combat despite being severely injured. In the live-action movie, Jonah Hex could raise the dead and make them speak, but this is something he has never done in the comics.
For my son!
Live-action adaptation. On August 6, 2010, a live-action adaptation of Jonah Hex was released. Josh Brolin played Jonah, Megan Fox played Tallulah Black, and John Malkovich played Quentin Turnbull. The film had a budget of $100 million. The movie begins with Jonah's time as a Confederate cavalryman in the American Civil War. He answers to Quentin Turnbull, his commanding officer. He obsessively tries to make the Union fall and orders Jonah to burn a hospital down. Jonah, who refuses, is forced to kill Jeb Turnbull, his closest friend. After the war is over, Turnbull takes revenge on Jonah by forcing him to watch as he burns his house down while his wife and son are inside. He also brands Jonah's face with his initials, QT, and leaves him to die. Jonah is rescued by Native Americans with mystical powers. They use those powers to bring Jonah back, but failed at bringing back all of him. And so, Jonah acquired the power to communicate with the dead and temporarily resurrect them if he maintained physical contact with the corpse. However, the resurrected body still remains to be a lifeless corpse to others. Following Turnbull's death, Hex becomes a bounty hunter to satisfy his thirst for vengeance. This does not come without its fair share of problems. In Skunk Creek, Jonah is caught up with the mayor and sheriff who do not intend to pay him for his kill and instead wish to kill Jonah for the bounty on his head. He kills the sheriff, collects his money, and leaves. As Turnbull plans a terrorist attack on the 4th of July, Jonah is hired by Army Lieutenant Grass to stop Turnbull. Corrupt aristocrat Adelman Lusk helps Turnbull track down a weapon he seeks. Meanwhile, Jonah resurrects Jeb Turnbull, who tells him that Quentin was at Fort Resurrection. Jonah finds the super weapon that was being assembled at the fort. It was a weapon with tremendous destructive power, which is why the US military was against its conception. After Jonah and Turnbull confront one another, the latter escapes while Jonah sustains a fatal blow from Burke and yet escapes as well. Turnbull tests the weapon in Georgia, leveling a small town to the ground and killing innocent civilians. Jonah rides to Independence Harbor by himself to stop Turnbull after being low-key resurrected from a near-death situation by his Native American allies. Burke attacks Jonah as he tries to infiltrate, but Hex kills him. Turnbull chains Jonah using Lila, a prostitute he cared for, as bait. Lila frees herself and her and Jonah engage Turnbull in a duel. Their fight takes them into the engine room where he traps Turnbull's neck in a gear after beating him up brutally. In the end, he received reward money from President Grant and was asked to be sheriff of the country. However, Jonah declines the offer and leaves the city with Lila.
Oh, danger. Now take your money and get. This ain't no place for
Hex's appearance in other media. Jonah Hex has appeared in several other forms of media apart from the comics, namely animation and films. He appeared in Batman the Animated Series in the episode Showdown, where Ra's al Ghul narrates a story of meeting Hex in 1883 to Batman as the bounty hunter chased after his son Arcady Duval. He also appeared in Justice League Unlimited in an episode where the Western heroes of the modern day era travel to Jonah's time period. In Batman the Brave and the Bold, Jonah Hex appeared in Return of the Fearsome Fangs, where he is almost killed by the Royal Flush Gang, but Batman comes to the rescue. Together, they capture the gang. He appears in Duel of the Double Crossers as well, trying to capture Despero for Mongul's Warworld. We've already taken a look at his representation in the silver screen with the 2010 movie Jonah Hex. He also makes an appearance in Legends of Tomorrow, where Jonah meets Rip Hunter, who is hiding in the Old West of 1861 with his group. Together, they fight Jeb Stillwater and the Hunters dispatched by the Time Lords. He also appeared in the Crisis of Infinite Earths, where he paired up with Cyborg, Batlash, Firebrand, Scalp Hunter, Johnny Thunder, Johnny Stewart, Nighthawk, and Simon to fight the Shadow Demons and Monitor.
Jonah Hex.
Is there going to be another Jonah Hex movie? For the longest time, Jonah Hex was anticipated to return as part of the Crisis of Infinite Earths. However, the winds of the Wild Wild West have died down after its release. Fans are eager to see their favorite anti-hero Cowboy back on screen, but the movie's failure has prevented the franchise from being expanded upon. But thanks to Legends of Tomorrow and Crisis, that Jonah Hex has been able to draw in more fans. As of now, we can only wait for studios, Warner Bros. In particular, to come up with something new. A reboot or spin-off would be cool, but nothing would please the hardcore DC fans more than a canon adaptation of the comics. What do you think of Jonah Hex? Did you enjoy this video? If yes, then don't forget to like and comment on this video. Till then, goodbye and have a nice one.
Hey, Hex! What happened to your face?